It was March 25, 2005. Naman Avenue Apartments, Gulistane-Johar, Karachi. The doorbell rang at around 3 a.m. I woke up, opened the door, and saw around 20 people in police and paramilitary uniforms. Some were in civilian clothes. "What's happening, sir?" I asked politely. In response, someone hit me with the butt of his AK-47, once on my head and once on my neck, forcing me to collapse on the ground. They handcuffed my hands on my back and blindfolded me. I could hear my other friends being beaten and handcuffed. We were thrown into a vehicle barefoot and driven to a secret military location. They did not let us sleep for 3 nights. We were hanging, hands tied upwards. It was a huge hall with black and white tiles. A giant searchlight was looking directly into my eyes. A soldier was tasked to beat me every once in a while to stop me from drifting into sleep. He was good at his work. He had a leather strip which he used with his both hands on every part of my body. When it hit me, it would stick on my flesh, forcing out streams of blood. My hand had been tied upside in such a way that if I tried to keep my feet on the ground, my wrists would feel the pressure of my body and my wrists would bleed. My head had been covered with a plastic bag, making it difficult to breathe. The knees, wrists, and back joints had been burnt with cigarette butts. Such were the happenings of the first few days. Later, I was shifted to a tiny cell where I could only stretch my legs. The searing heat of Karachi, mosquitoes, a suffocating small cell, eyes shut with a black piece of cloth, and feet chained. Sleeping was not an option anyway, but an officer would visit at any time of night. If he found one sleeping, there was a punishment: electric current on thighs. The interrogation room was located near the main gate of our lockups. If someone was being interrogated, I could hear their screams. One day, I heard someone being tortured to extremes. I prayed it ended soon. The torture continued for what it seemed hours. A while later, I saw through the metal strips of my cell's door someone passing by. His eyes were blindfolded and his neck was bloodied. I figured it was Allah Nazar. Only he was tall enough to be seen from the upper part of my cell's door. The first 3 days were meant for sleep deprivation and instilling fear. Then began the investigation. Sleep deprivation and fear make you talk. During the investigation, my eyes were closed. An officer sitting in front of me asked questions, and a guard stood behind me with a leather strip or a stick. I guess when the officer signaled, the guard would start beating. They rubbed something against my feet which felt like a stick and asked, Do you have any idea what it is? I didn't know. You will know when we will use it. I don't know if they ever used it or not. Toilet sessions were no less torture. You had only 40 seconds or a minute at most to relieve yourself. A guard holding one end of the chain tied to my handcuffs waited outside the toilet. He would pull me out as the time ended. It always felt like sitting on a ticking time bomb. But I would still pee in peace inside my cell, as I was given a bottle for the purpose. Yet I had to make sure that I don't confuse it with the other bottle meant for drinking water. Investigation sessions continued for days. There was a long list of questions they asked during the interrogations. Who's funding the Baloch student organization? How did we finance our propaganda literature like pamphlets, posters, magazines, etc.? Do you collect Jagga tax from people? I asked what Jagga tax is. In return, I got a beating. Which is the militant wing of the Baloch national movement? Why Allah Nazar was staying at the apartment where we were arrested? Was Akhtar Nadeem related to me? What is the passcode of this suitcase? Open it. Which route is used to smuggle weapons? Have you ever visited Afghanistan or Iran? One day, they told us we were going to get a haircut. They trimmed our beard and hair, which had grown like wild grass, in a gallery just outside our lockup area. The Baloch are handsome people, the barber hotly told the officer. It made me feel good. The officer had once been stationed in my hometown Mashke and knew many people from the area. We are taking you to your country, he said. We were about to be shifted to Quetta. One day, I was removed from my cell, but not to be taken for torture. They took me to a comparatively distant place and put me into a vehicle. My eyes were shut and hands chained, but I figured from random whispers and purposeful clearing of throats that Ghulam Rasul, Dr. Yusuf and Akhtar Nadeem were also there. The soldiers had warned us from whispering. Every word was punished with prolonged beating sessions. Keeping that in mind, we all fell silent out of fear. The vehicle started moving. Someone tuned into a radio channel. The DJ was saying it was a Karachi FM channel, and so. Then he said it was International Mother's Day. I remembered my mother. Suddenly, I was overwhelmed by the fear that my mother was dead by then. I had been missing for 2 months and nobody knew about my whereabouts. Once, I was jailed for a minor dispute involving my BSO activities at the Bolan Medical College. My mother sent my cousin from Mashke saying, "He's my only son. I will die if he remained in jail." Therefore, in that vehicle on Mother's Day, I feared my mother must have died. She's still worried about me, but thankfully, she's still alive. You guys don't have a brother, so take good care of yourselves. Dr. Al-Nazir used to joke about some of us. While crossing a road, he would tell us jokingly to be on the safer side. I, Dr. Shams, Ghulam Rasul, Ataur Rahman, and Dr. Imdad belonged to this club, being the only son of our mothers. After 45 days of torture and interrogation in Karachi, we were flown to Quetta on a small plane. At a certain place in the Quetta cantonment, we were made to walk blindfolded almost all day. I found out later that they were short of cells and did not know where to put us. Finally, they had to sort out a place around the weaponry area for me and Dr. Yusuf. The same torture techniques were used and the same questions asked in Quetta. A total of 2 months passed in similar conditions. One day, we were taken to a hospital, most probably the CMH in Quetta. Our blindfolds were removed during medical checkup with a doctor. After asking some questions, the doctor gave me a bottle to deposit my urine sample. In the toilet, I saw myself in the mirror after a very long time. It was a different person. On the return to the cell, a guard told me those who were taken to hospital for medical tests were either released soon or detained forever. It was a confusing message. An interrogator in Quetta had previously warned me that I had lied to them several occasions and it meant I had to rot there forever. But that did not happen. One day, we were flown to another city where we were handed over to the police. They removed everyone's blindfolds and handcuffs, except mine. My handcuffs refused to be unlocked despite all their efforts. I was finally given to police custody with the handcuffs still hanging on from one of my hands. In the police vehicle, I saw the signboard of the Agriculture College, Dera Ghazi Khan. "We are in Dera Ghazi Khan," I announced to my friends. We were shifted to the Sakhi Sarwar police station. I could see the road from outside the police station. Decorated trucks, which looked so familiar, passed by. One of it must be coming from Mashke, my hometown, I thought. If only I could pass on a message to my family. We were still in captivity, but we were already celebrating our freedom. I took a shower almost after 20 days and kept staring at the road. I saw a policeman bringing a mechanic from across the road. "The one with the handcuffs should come forward," the policeman called out. I moved forward and stretched my handcuffed hand out of the window. The mechanic broke it open with a sharp tool as I gasped in fear of losing my hand. In the night, the police conducted a photo session with us. It meant for the next day's newspapers, which said we had been arrested for trying to bomb the airport in Dera Ghazi Khan. On May 25, we were released on bail in a framed case of burglary. We had been accused of stealing a TV set and a CD player from a house.